So today we're going to be talking about photosynthesis.
We can act like plants. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis is great. Photosynthesis is one of my favorite things when it comes to AP biology, because why? Why is photosynthesis great? Well, you have to think, I need to breathe, I need to eat. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis gives me both of those things. I'm breathing and I'm eating. I'm producing my own food for myself. So that is the key here to photosynthesis. So it's not just in plants, it's also in bacteria. I know we see leaves here, but you can think of little bacteria. They also do photosynthesis. That's how they produce food for themselves. All energy that plants have can be traced back to photosynthesis. So the basis and foundation of photosynthesis is we're converting carbohydrates into the metabolism, and that is the energy we're getting. So we're breaking down carbohydrates into sugars. So we established that photosynthesis is breaking down those carbohydrates, these complex molecules. It's breaking them down, and what are we getting? We're getting air. We're breathing, right? I need to breathe, I need photosynthesis. I need to eat, I need photosynthesis. So that is what photosynthesis, that's how it benefits a plant, that's how it's benefiting bacteria. But how does that happen? That's great in theory, but how does it really take place? So here what you're looking at is the image of a chloroplast. So what it is it's really like this little green bean right here. You can think of like little peas. This is what it is, and then this is the inside of it. So what's important is these thylakoids. One of these is a thylakoid membrane. So I know they're all circled, but that's what's called a granum. But I know we're going a little fast here, so one thylakoid at a time.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
One of these little green oval spheres, that is a thylakoid. And what happens is photosynthesis is taking place in the thylakoid. Okay, it's taking place in one of these green little discs. And when you stack all of them up, you are getting a granum. So the thylakoid is a membrane. And the light reaction, remember, the light reaction of photosynthesis is taking place inside the thylakoid. But if the thylakoid is a membrane, what is it protecting? What is it filtering? Well, the lumen is what's inside of the thylakoid. That is like the substance. That's like when you crack open an M&M and you see the chocolate, or you open up a basketball and you see like that rubbery inside, or you start like ripping apart your shoe. I honestly, I could do analogies forever. If you want more analogies, let me know in the comments, because I can do a whole video on analogies here.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
But the lumen inside the thylakoid, that's what the thylakoid is protecting. So remember we talked about that cell membrane. It's not like it's not a solid structure. It's flexible. It's always moving with those phospholipids. Well, it's kind of like that. This thylakoid is protecting and filtering what's going on inside the lumen, and the light reaction for photosynthesis is taking place in the thylakoid. So the next thing we're going to do, we lay the foundation for photosynthesis, right? We know that the goal of photosynthesis is to acquire energy. Okay, so what does the plant need to live? It gets that through photosynthesis. Now, before we get into anything, we have carbon dioxide, we have water, and we have the products here. To remember this formula, I want you to think of, what does a plant need to live, right? A plant needs, well, let's see, a plant needs water. Plant's going to need probably some oxygen, probably food. Think of, you're the plant. What do you need to live? Well, I need oxygen, I need food, I need water. You see what I'm saying here? So this is arbitrary, right? This is a formality, because it really just comes down to the key concept you've learned your whole life. What does a plant need to live? It's as simple as that. So here we're starting off with the C6CO2. That's just the carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide enters through the stoma. Okay, now people always ask me, stoma, it's a weird word. I always say stomata. I don't know if you're Italian or not, or what you got going on, but stomata, it's fun to say. Don't write that on a test. It is the stoma, but add a little TA. Stomata helps you remember it. So you got the stomata, the stoma, for the sake of science. And those are those little pores here, kind of those little booger thingies. As you can see, this is under a microscope. And you can see those stoma, these are the pores. Carbon dioxide goes into the pores. And then you have this water, the 6H2O. And these 6 water molecules, all it is, water molecules, that's going to enter through the roots. So that soil, as you can see right there. That plant does look fake though. Fake plants do not do photosynthesis. So let's get that right. So C6H12O6, this is just the product. This is what we're getting. This is that big source of energy. I want you to think a bunch of atoms combining together, something out of like Marvel or some chemical model. A bunch of atoms combined together. They have this big, huge thing, and it's the energy. So how do they get that energy? They need cellular respiration to break it down. Once they break it down, then they can take the energy. But without cellular respiration, it's useless. It doesn't even matter. So this photosynthesis is useless without cellular respiration. Go watch my video on cellular respiration. So this, it doesn't even matter. But then you have the 6O2. This is just the oxygen as a byproduct. Now this is the C6H12O6. Remember, that is what we need to be broken down. Now, knowing that this is what you need to be broken down, I'm going to quiz you right now. What is this formula reversed? The formula reversed is cellular respiration. And that was one of my science fun facts. So you reverse this. This is what needs to be broken down. So instead of this being a product, this is necessary. This first needs to be, this is the main part of the formula for cellular respiration. But that is another video that we already did, by the way. So right now, just photosynthesis. So now we're going to get into the heart and soul of photosynthesis. This is what is truly going on. So, but first things first, we're going to divide this. I want to separate this first into photo and synthesis. When you think photo, I want you to think this light-dependent reaction. Now, where does that light-dependent reaction take place? A little quiz here. It takes place in the thylakoid. Okay, not the lumen, but the thylakoid is where it's taking place. Okay, the thylakoid. And then we're going to have the synthesis part, and I want you to think the Calvin cycle. So we're synthesizing. Where does this take place? What is the only other thing I mentioned? The stoma, or the stomata. Stomata for the ones who need it. For the stomata. So we got the stoma and we have the thylakoid. So in this light-dependent reaction, what is really going on? Okay, in this light-dependent reaction, all that's happening here is we have this water. Remember, this is what's happening in this equation. This hydrogen is coming into the thylakoid, and it's mixing with the light, and it's producing NADPH and ATP, and it's giving oxygen as a byproduct. So remember that photosynthesis formula? If you don't remember this, what do we have? We have hydrogen, and what was our byproduct? Oxygen. So that is exactly what's happening in the photo part. Cut in half. Remember, this is photo, this is synthesis. In this photo part, oxygen is that byproduct, and we're grabbing these hydrogen atoms. It's coming down, and it's mixing with the light. That's why it is a light dependent. We're depending on the light. Without the light, this is basura. It doesn't matter. Basura. It doesn't matter. It's garbage. Okay. But it's dependent on the light. So this light-dependent reaction is going to produce NADPH and ATP, and these are crucial for the Calvin cycle. So the next thing is, what is all of this used for? Marker. What is all of this used for? That's our next thing, right? This NADPH, this ATP, what does it have to do with anything, right? It was dependent on the light. Now we got it. Well, it's going to go in to the Calvin cycle, okay? It's going to go into the Calvin cycle. It's going to mix with this carbon dioxide, this NADPH, this ATP, and what is it going to give us? It's going to give us glucose, that big old atom that we were talking about that needs to be broken down with cellular respiration. So it's going to give us this. This is what the Calvin cycle is for. So this, I want you to break it up. Break those equations up. The water, the hydrogen, and the oxygen, it's light dependent, okay? Whoa. It is light dependent. That's the most important part here. This whole thing is dependent on the light. So this water is mixing with the light, and it's giving off that oxygen. So think of that equation. That H2O is giving off the oxygen, and this carbon dioxide is mixing and forming the glucose. So that CO2, right, remember we had here, and then we had the H2O. Well, the CO2 is going here. The H2O is going there. So the water is with the light dependent, the CO2 is with the Calvin cycle, and we get the glucose and then the oxygen. And this is the photosynthesis formula in action. Reverse it, you get cellular respiration, but this is the photosynthesis in action. So now this is the light dependent reaction. Okay, so right now we are inside the thylakoid membrane. We have the stoma. up here, we have the lumen down here. So most of it is, right, so this is the membrane. We have, this is a photosystem, and this is another photosystem. Now, why is this two and why is this one? Well, this was discovered before this one, and that's all. But this one comes first. So what's in these, what's in PS2, what's in PS1? Well, in PS2 and PS1, as you can see, it's green. So it's filled with chlorophyll and proteins. Now, this light-dependent reaction is the exact opposite of cellular respiration, and it resembles the formula we just went over. You're going to see it play out perfectly. So what's coming in here, what's coming in is light, as you can see. What's coming in is light, and what's coming in is water. So now, automatically, what we're releasing is this O2, because what's going to come up here is hydrogen. We're losing the O2, we're just bringing up that hydrogen, and now this hydrogen is going to move, is going to move, well, maybe not, is going to move through this electron transport chain, right? So similar to cellular respiration, we're using that electron transport chain. You watch my video to learn more about that. Now this electron transport chain, what is it going to give off? Well, it's going to give off a bunch of positives here, hopefully. It's going to give off a bunch of positives. And every time it does this, right, every time we use light, we use the H2O, the O2 comes off, the H is up here, it's going through PS2, and when it gets up here and it moves to the electron transport chain, every time it does that, it's giving off a positive, right? We're dropping off positives down here. So now, there are all these positives are in the lumen, and all of this is the stoma, right? The sun is coming from the outside. So this sun is penetrating the stoma into the thylakoid membrane. And now all of this is coming down. The water, remember I said the water comes through the roots, and that's why it's coming from below. And the sun, the oxygen, through the stoma. So now let's talk about ATP synthase. This nice big old blue thing right here. So now to get into ATP synthase. So every time this is running through that electron transport chain, we're producing NADPH. You'll probably remember that from the cellular respiration video. So we're producing that NADPH, but what is it for, right? It's just kind of chilling there, right? It's not useful if it's just kind of chilling with all those letters. We need to simplify it. We got to break it down. We got to get rid of the N. We got to get rid of the D and the P. We need ATP, okay? That's what we need. That's what everyone needs. We need some ATP in here. So right now what's happening is all these protons are down here. These protons with a positive charge, so they're going to come up through this ATP synthase, and every time they do that, we're going to produce ATP. So we're producing ATP now. And that's why we need those protons. So that's why it's important these protons are down here. And what's nice is now they're coming up through the stroma. Now we're going to tackle the Calvin cycle. Now this is a lot. There is a lot going on here, but we're going to break it down very easily right now. So the first phase is carbon fixation. For carbon fixation, the whole point of this Calvin cycle, the second part of photosynthesis, remember we had the photo, which was the light, and now we have the synthesis, which is the Calvin cycle. So this is the second part of photosynthesis. Carbon fixation, we are making carbon useful. Carbon is becoming something that we can use. We're basically taking carbon, it's like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. We're taking carbon and we're turning it into energy. That's basically what photosynthesis is doing right now. So carbon fixation, you have this ribulose 1,5-biphosphate. What in the heavens is that? I could not tell you. Luckily, I can tell you. So basically, all you want to know here is that it's a 5-carbon. So this is where we're starting. Where's my marker? This is where we are starting. Oh, no. This is it, right? We have a 5-carbon. And then this rubisco is going to come in, okay? So remember, we have this 5-carbon. We're starting, this is the only thing we want to focus on right now is we're starting off with this 5-carbon. So we're starting off with this 5-carbon. This is crucial here. This is the most important part of the Calvin cycle. And then what's going to happen is this enzyme called rubisco is going to we're going to lose a CO2, we're going to take out a CO2 here that's coming through the stomata. And this CO2 and this 5-carbon ribulose and this rubisco is going to allow them to combine together. Okay, so that's what the rubisco is for. Remember in cellular respiration we had the coacetyl CoA? Well, the rubisco kind of almost serves the same function. Remember that photosynthesis and cellular respiration are inverse of each other. So this Rubisco is going to fuse them together, and then what it's going to do is it's going to split. So we're going to have a 3-carbon that's going to go straight into the central metabolic pathway. Don't got to worry about it anymore. And now we're going to send another 3-carbon down here, this 3-phosphoglycyrate. So now we have we have 3 carbons left, right? That's all we need to know. Don't worry about the fancy names. We have 3 carbons left. That's it. So what's happening here? Well, the ATP is coming in and it's releasing ADP. Remember, ATP, so now this ADP is coming out, and now we have this NADPH, and what are we getting? We're getting that NADP. We are losing a proton, we're losing an electron, we're losing that hydrogen. That hydrogen is gone. So that's whenever we see this NADPH and it's turning into NADP, we're losing the hydrogen. Okay, so now finally our final product is this glyceraldehyde phosphate G3P. That's what it's called. It's G3P. If you meet anyone and you're like, well, what's the final part of the Calvin cycle? And they quote you this, run. Run. It is G3P. It's assembled in glucose, sucrose, maltose, whatever you want. Anything that will, it's going to get us the sugar. So basically, this is the final product. We just turned carbon into a sugar. We just turned carbon into energy. That's basically what we just did. So now the cycle is going to start again here through, I don't really want you guys to worry about this. The cycle is going to start again here through the ribulose. We're going to have that 5-carbon. The ATP is going to come in, right? And now the energy, the ATP, it's getting the cycle moving, right? So it's almost like it's a constant cycle, hence the circle, but it needs ATP to move. Right? So you can't produce ATP without ATP is basically what we're saying. We need oxygen and we need energy to produce energy. So this ATP, remember, so this ATP is giving us ADP, and that is your Calvin cycle. Today, I hope you liked the video. Like, subscribe, follow, and if you ever have any questions, you can DM me on TikTok at the Marius Method. I'll put that link in the description, or you can leave a comment down below. Feel free to leave a comment. I'll do a video on anything and everything science related. Keep learning.